It's Sunday, folks. Here in Florida, the pollen is at an all-time high and it's raining here, so everyone's allergies are going out through the wild. I'm the Poll Father, and today we're going to talk about tactics of negotiations in this episode. So just to kind of follow up from my last episode where it was titled, You Catch More Bees with Honey Than You Do Vinegar, basically essentially saying, don't be a jerk, and people will be more willing to work with you. Hence, catching more bees with honey, more kindness and sweetness will attract better deals in the future versus being sour and negative amongst other items. So in this episode, I want to talk more about tactics of negotiations. And I have my list here. I'm going to go through, there's 7 of them. 7 key details that I think will help buyers and sellers work out better deals. Maybe more for this topic for tactics, more for the buy side and a little bit of the sell side, but there still goes both ways. But the first thing I want to talk about is the key term, flinching. Before we actually get into these, I am going to do another episode on hardballing. There is nothing wrong about being a hardballer for negotiating, but just because you're going to hardball doesn't mean you need to have thick skin and be tough and kind of rude about it. Remember, key thing is you always want to catch more bees with honey than you do vinegar. So, following negotiation tactics. First one is flinching. Flinch is a reaction. So, everyone knows what flinch is. It's you get puzzled. Why is that important? Flinching is a great way to set the table for holding your cards tight to you. No one knows your true hand, or no one knows what you're really thinking. So, if I'm a vendor, and a buyer comes up and goes, how much for this card? And I go, $100. And that person goes, $100? Or $100? Like a reaction to it. A smart buyer that flinches, anyone that flinches, doesn't know what that person is thinking when they're viewing that card. So you flinch. For all you know, and vendors don't know this. Let's say a vendor's selling a card for $100, and that buyer's been around. He's looking for that card, and he's gotten prices from other people. Maybe he's gotten higher prices at like $130, $140, $150. So all of a sudden, $100, you flinch, go $100. Man, I don't know. It's a great way. Sorry, off the microphone. It's a great way to have a good poker face and to go into a situation where you start negotiating. That buyer just found the best price and is not giving it away that he's been shopping around for it at other tables. So you kind of take it as a flinch as a reaction, like, oh, man, $100? Okay. It makes it seem like the vendor won and they're more willing to do that deal. Meanwhile, you're getting the card at a discount at the convention than any other vendors are selling that card for. I always like to tell examples, but one time, actually an example is poker for this one. I was in Las Vegas, sitting at a poker table, and on the 3 cards, I had pocket kings, and the 3 cards were showing where it was a king, it was 2 random cards, but no other face cards. Next card came around was an ace. Like, oh man, you gotta be kidding me. Whatever. Final card comes out and it's a king. I hit a quad kings, okay? Well, the person across the table from me, I think they hit the full house, which is basically three of a kind and 2 of a kind. So they saw 2 kings, they had 3 aces. So it was my move. I know I had the situation won. And I pushed, I said, I think I raised like $200, $300, so be it. But what the person did against me, and granted, this is all poker, he goes, oh, man, $300? Okay. The reaction of flinching sets the face of, I don't know what you have, I know what I have, and I think I'm getting the better deal. Or I might be getting the better deal. Show the cards, I win, he lost, he was pissed. Happens, that's poker. But basically in terms of flinching is, it basically and essentially sets the table for negotiations. The other person doesn't know your cards or what you're thinking. You always want to keep your cards close. No one wants to know your gameplay going into negotiating for buying Pokemon cards, in my opinion.
Next, ask for more than you expect. You don't get what you don't ask for. You're likely to meet in the middle. So what does that mean? You don't get what you don't ask for. You're likely to meet in the middle.
Folks, you can't hit the ball if you don't swing, essentially. Now, don't be ridiculous, but it's never harm to ask. For example, and I'm going to tell from both ways. As a buyer, I've gone before saying, hey, I have this card. Would you buy this card off me? And then if I give you cash on top, would you do this deal? A lot of vendors will do it. Some won't. Other tables are turned. Vendors will look at buyers looking at their cards, and they'll say, oh, these prices that are listed, we'll negotiate with you. Basically, they want to do business with you. So basically, sorry, I keep bumping the microphone, but basically for this term, ask for more than you expect is a great way to wiggle around and do deals. So keep that in mind when you look at cards at the conventions when you go to this year. Number 3, never say yes to the first offer. It's probably their lowest - worst offer. Interesting. Okay. Basically, sums up exactly what I said. If a card is priced at $100 and you say, hey, I'll offer $70. Hey, and just because it is a lowball offer, depending on what card it is and so forth. But look, is it a lowball offer? Yes. However, that buyer has engaged with the seller of interest of doing this deal. Majority of these people going to these, collecticons or card conventions are collectors. I would say there's a very, very, very small percentage people are going to these shows as flippers. Most people that are going to be flipping are going to be vending at tables or that do this for a living. People that mainly do this for a living are more likely when conventions come around, they're posting up, they got a table, they're conducting business. People come to him, hey, I'm looking to sell my collection. That's a whole different gameplay. But as a person that's a buyer at these events that goes to tables and works deals, I would say personally, I can't say 10 out of 10, but I'm going to go 8 out of 10 times. People that are willing to negotiate are trying to get cards added to their collection versus they're trying to build their collection more than trying to make a profit. They may sell a card and make a little decent profit on it, but they'll take that money and they'll probably go invest in somewhere else to further their collection along. So you want to basically I guess I want to make sure I say this correctly, but when it comes to this, when it comes to the first set round of negotiation, the key thing is when you play hardball, you don't need to, like I said, necessarily have thick skin. It's all about getting the deal done. Never put your best offer first, because if you do, you're never going to land at that number. There's always some type of wiggle room. Always. I guess it's a confusing way. Every scenario is different for negotiating and for something you may want to buy, but basically you want to there's nothing wrong with putting your best foot forward sometimes, but just keep this in mind, folks. You never want to put that as your first play, because if you do, you may land somewhere else. Okay, so a great story was, there was a card I really wanted to add to my collection, and it was priced. I was off by maybe like $100, and it was a pretty expensive card. And so I'll do this. I feel comfortable at this price. They're like, no, won't do it. Needs to be this. Needless to say, I knew someone at the convention that actually bought that card at the price I wanted to buy it at. Granted, he came after me hours later to purchase the card, but I know for a fact that's where I messed up at. Is if I would have came in cheaper, I think I would have had more room to say like, hey, this is my best and final, this is the best I can do. I think I actually would have gotten the deal done. timing is everything. Maybe that next person he had to move. I don't know the situation. But basically, you live and learn. So, folks, don't put your best offer first forward. Negotiate, willing to bargain. Which leads me to the next thing. And that's called tapering concessions. Salami slicing, right? Salami slicing. Here's the salami. Hey, this card's worth, I want $100 for it. Well, I'll give you 70. All right, I'll come down to 95. Oh, I'll come up. Eventually, you meet in the middle, slicing the salami, making a deal to essentially meet in the middle. The biggest mindset of negotiating is the better you can do to make that person feel like a winner is how you're going to get deals done the best. Make the person feel like they've won. That's how deals are going to get done. That's how you're going to do the best at negotiating. Next, this is my favorite one, personally. Taking hostages. And what does that mean? Don't give something up without getting something in return. And then it says, quote unquote, prevent nibbling. What does this mean? I have a great story for this one. About a year ago, I purchased a base set, a CGC 9 base set Charizard, pop report, old slab, all 9 subgrades. Got it for a great deal. I knew I was getting it for a great deal. I don't know what the vendor's mindset was on this deal, but everyone has a different mindset. But what I did was, I was like, man, this is a tough card. Like, I'm really putting forth into this. I'm going to buy this, but I want this and this with it. And the guy goes, yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. I negotiated a great price for a base set Charizard, old CGC sub slab, whatever. And I also got full art Evolving Skies EV Evolutions with it. Folks, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to, I wouldn't say don't be ridiculous, but don't be afraid to, and that's what this key thing is, prevent nibbling. I nibbled at him a bit, saying, I'm spending a lot here. Hey, man, throw this in, throw that in. Yeah, get the deal done. Granted, those cards at the time were, $15-20, but he handed me 2 or 3 of them, I think. So, it equates to about an extra $40-50 in cards. Granted, he may have just gotten those cards in a whole book he bought for $100. But for me, it was a win because I not only bought an item at a discount, but I was able to nibble away at them and grab other things in conjunction with this one. So don't be afraid on both ends, whether you're a vendor or buyer. Don't be afraid to chew here and chew there and see what you can get. Next, okay. I think it's my last one. At least this one has too much to do a little bit with real estate. Actually, no, it doesn't. Negotiate in specifics. So what does that mean? Basically, if you see a card you're after, make sure you know your item to a T. Do not go in blind a little bit on an item. More times than others, if you can know the ins and outs on a card you may want, it's going to help you get the best deal possible for it. For example, actually, great story with this one. I was at a convention, and this guy had, and it was predominantly a sports card convention, but this guy had Pokemon cards, and he had a couple holos, and say, hey, let me take a look at these. They all were near mint, great condition cards, mint, close to mint, like pack fresh. I noticed out of his 15 holos, he had 3 jungle no symbol errors. I said, whoa, he's got these. Played it cool. I said, hey, man, I said, how much you want for this one? He goes, you want these? I said, yeah. I said, I want to add this to my collection. And he goes, and let me tell you, one was the Pidgeot, one was the Pinsir, and the other one was the Vileplume. I want to say the Scyther, but it was the Vileplume. What's the Vileplume? No. Anyways, I can't remember the other one. I bought all 3 of them for $40. And that guy was astounded. He was like, oh, $40, take it off me. I was like, it's like 40. I was like, can you maybe just come down a little bit? And he goes, okay. So I think I got it for like $35, 40 or somewhere around there. But I remember saying that specifically. Anyways, I picked up those cards. I graded them. I sold each. They all graded 9s, by the way. I sold them all at the time. It was like some of them were for $200 a piece. And granted, I left room on the upside for the next person, but I was able to swing a deal. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, whatever cards you collect, or whatever set, series, or cards that you're after, make sure you do know specific details on certain cards, because you can miss out on a great opportunity. Not even for just searching for cards, but also you don't want to get screwed when you're buying a card. So essentially, in the mainstream, make sure you know details on your cards that you're going after, so you know what is maybe a little more rare and unique versus other things. So, no jungle symbol errors, any error cards, or the cigar error cards on the fossil cards, or basically thick stamp, thin stamp first editions. Make sure you kind of just have a good idea on specific details on the item. That's the best way you'll get the best price. If you don't really know the thin line details on certain items, you will. And then look, we all collect Pokemon cards. We all also what's this? I've heard of this. I don't know too much about it. All these are really cool. Make sure you have an idea though of what it is and what the going rate is for it, because you don't want to. There's nothing wrong with overpaying on a card at a convention because it's in front of you. You can see it. You can scan the card, but you also don't want to pay an extra arm and a leg for that card. If you understand what I'm saying. Last but not least, my favorite one. Walk away. Folks, this is one of the toughest tactics, but the strongest tactics in negotiating. The walk away method. As a vendor and buyers, you have the power for this, but tread with caution. Walking away, basically, and this is just a key thing in negotiating, because the one who wins is the one who least wants it the most. The power of walking away from a negotiating is strong. If I am a buyer, okay, and I come to your table, you want $100 for your card, I'm willing to give you $70. And you say to me, can't do it. Well, I show hesitation. I show nervousness. I'm worrying a bit. Folks, you gotta fish on the reel. As a seller, you got to fish on the reel. Reel them in. Work them, reel them in. If someone offers you for something, you have them. You got to work them, bring them in. All turns to negotiating. Buyers now. The strength of walking away, if used correctly, can be extremely effective. Now, if there's a card that's $100, you're like, hey man, $20. Okay? As a vendor, I would tell you off too. Like, hey man, can't do it. You can't, it's got to be used correctly, walking away. It's a very strong. I don't think I have any examples using it in Pokemon cards, not yet, but in real estate, I have great examples of it. Walking away, folks, is one of the best things you can use, but just tread with caution, because you don't want to miss out on something you want to add to your collection. I can give an example of how this worked against me. There was a card at a convention. I wanted it. I came and I looked at it 4 times, and I tried around to see if I can get it for a better price at other tables, and it didn't work out. And I said to myself, man, that's the best looking card here at this convention. I went back and said, all right, man, let's do the deal. He looked at me and goes, sorry, man, I sold it. And he did. He literally sold it 10 minutes before I got there. And that person walked off with the card. I said, oh my God, I literally should have just bought this thing. I walked away. The person got a better price for it than I was willing to pay for it. So I can't chop at him. But you know what? You just understanding when you walk away, when you literally walk away, you are walk away from an opportunity from adding a card to your collection. At the same point, though, the seller is losing out on moving product and taking profit and net proceeds and either using it for something else or for putting in his pocket. Folks, vendors need to move product. They've got to move inventory. These collecticons, There are premiums charged for singles, slabs, seal product, everything. You've got to be able to negotiate. Vendors are willing to negotiate. Go in, calm. Don't let your emotions override you. You see something you want, work it. These vendors want to sell their stuff. You want to add to your collection. Don't be a fool and buy it for an arm and a leg. This is true. And vendors sometimes don't get smart about this. I've been to a convention. I saw something I wanted. How much you want for it? I think it was like $300. Yeah, you know what? You can pull up the comps on eBay and be like, oh, well, I can get it for this price. Well, the vendors are going to say, well, go get it then. Go get it for that price then. And I would too. But what looks stupid, and I did this before on purpose to prove a point. A vendor had an item there. It was overpriced. I said, hey, man, this is true. It was like $350, $375. And the going rate for it online was about $300. I'm at the convention, having fun. I had a $20 premium on it. Maybe a $30 premium on it. Okay, so I said, hey, man, I'll give you can I do $330 for it? Selling on eBay online for $300 all day. You have $375, $350. You have to give him a little markup, so forth. I thought I was being a nice guy. And the guy goes, nope, can't do it. Well, needless to say, on eBay, he had that card posted for that price. Guess what I did? Sorry, man, can't do it. Walked around the corner. I went on eBay. I bought it. I walked up to him and said, hey, man, can I have my card? What are you talking about? I said, well, I just bought your listing on eBay. The guy looked at me, face red like an apple. Red like an apple. Just as an example, vendors, make sure you hide your inventory or update your inventory on eBay or wherever it may be, because I was extremely effective on that. And I kind of looked at him and smiled and say, well, I'm not paying for shipping. You're like this. I smiled at him. And he goes, okay, all right, man, can I refund this for you? And, I'll do this price of this. And I was a nice guy. And I said, yeah, it's okay. So he refunded my purchase. And then I paid cash. I gave him cash for the price we sold on eBay for. So vendors, make sure your inventory online is hidden or is just, I don't want to say hidden, but just be cautious of it, because a ton of buyers are always scanning eBay last sold in front of your face when they're looking at products. Be very careful. Happens all the time. And the same token, buyers, that's really all I got to talk about for negotiating. But I'll only leave this thing too for buyers as well. Look, you have to expect at these trading card conventions premiums. Vendors do very, very well at these, but you have to expect premiums at these conventions. There is a premium to this. The card's in front of your face. You get to look at it. You get to really look at it then versus online. But you have to understand that these vendors need to mark it up because they need to make a profit. And then if you're trying to sell a card to them, they're not going to buy it for you at market price. It's just not going to happen. So I think I'm going to speak on behalf of all vendors and YouTubers out there. Don't expect them to offer you full price for a card unless it's literally something they want for their own personal collection. Don't expect it. They will offer you lower. Engrave that in your head. If this card is worth $300, they're going to offer you probably $225 or $200. They've got to leave room for upside for them because they are going to put money forward for it. It's going to sit in their inventory and they have to move it at market price. Unless it's an emotional buyer and they want the card. Those are your best buyers. Remember that. Your best buyers are the emotional buyers. I'm going to use I don't want to ramble on for too long, but I'm going to use my cousin as a great example. The classic Hidden Fates, Shiny Volt, Charizard. Shiny Charizard from Hidden Fates, PSA 10. We walked up to a different couple tables, and this was last November 2022, maybe August or September. Walking around, how much you give me for this Charizard? Hey man, I can do 450 for it, 400, 450, 500, 450. We walked to one guy. He literally goes, "Oh man, why you do this to me?" And my cousin's like, "What do you mean do this to me?" He goes, "How much you want for it?" My cousin goes, "Well, I want 650 for it." Literally, this guy, no hesitation, pulls out his wallet and goes, and just starts forking up the cash. If you are a buyer, if you're a buyer and you're trying to sell cards at convention, your best vendor that's going to buy your card is the emotional buyer that wants their card for their collection. My cousin had no business selling that Charizard there for a premium price for a Charizard. There's so many so many tens in the pop report. But guess what? He found the emotional buyer. He needed it. He wanted it. No hesitation. No ask. $650. You got it. Here you go. Deal is done. That's how you're gonna get it done, folks. It's my time. Negotiating. I got more key things I'm gonna talk about here in the next couple videos. But folks, it's a Super Bowl. I'm giving myself some good chicken wings. Hoping for a good game. Not cheering for anyone specific, but tune in, guys. Do me a favor. Like the page. Subscribe to the channel. I'm the Poll Father. It only takes one. See you guys later. Take care.